Hello, it's Courtney with balancewithcourtney.com. I am passionate about helping others discover their happy and inspire them to make a daily habit. My intention is to hack happy by interviewing experts to share their story, to inspire others, and create a happy movement. Today's happy expert is Ann Tucker. Ann is the author, speaker, and founder of Wisdom Soup, a mobile app and community for people who want to develop their spiritual gifts. She spent years working at the top of the corporate world, coaching executives and advising them on how to reach their goals in the workplace. She was successful, but found herself asking, is that all there is? After a truly global search with some wonderful teachers and mentors, she embraced her purpose as a spiritual healer and the founder of Wisdom Soup. It was a wonderful, wild, and serendipitous journey, and she loves meeting and helping fellow travelers along the path. Welcome, Ann.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
You are so welcome. And I want to let everyone know in my tribe that I'm very familiar with Wisdom Soup. Before my wife and I moved, we would go there every month for the meetup and absolutely loved it.
As a matter of fact, if you look at the Wisdom Soup promo videos, Courtney is featured prominently. So
I'm saying that. Yes, wonderful, wonderful. So since we just brought it up, would you want to give a little description of what Wisdom Soup is?
Yeah, sure. So Wisdom Soup is a mobile app. It's available for iPhone and Android, and it's designed for people who want to develop their spiritual gifts, but maybe haven't found the just right teachers and the mentors that they need to break through. So it's a place where when you open up the app, you'll find a feed of posts, and these are all posts. It's ad-free. It's a place where you can go and you can find posts that are inspiring and uplifting and talking about your spiritual or personal growth. And users can post. So if you have an interesting experience, I love it when people post about, hey, I just went to this amazing workshop, or I just had this incredible meditation. So it's a way that we learn from each other. So it's a lot of fun, and it's a way for the community to stay connected in between meetups. So we have a meetup each month now, one in Bellevue, as well in Washington, as well as one in San Diego. But even if you're not in those areas, the app is a great way to join the community.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Wonderful. So let's just jump in. Will you share with our fans how you found your happy?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think happy is, it's not a destination that you arrive at necessarily. It's a process, right? It's a state of mind. It's a perception that you're perceiving happy. And that through the process of discovering what it is or how it is that you can be happy, sometimes you have to be unafraid to face the things that don't feel very happy in the moment. So my path to finding my happy was more about becoming fearless about facing what I didn't necessarily want to face, or the things that were challenges for me, the things that I was most afraid of facing. And that was scary at times, but by stepping into it, what comes out of that is a real sense of internal joy, that it's much more like it's coming from inside of me. And there's a self-satisfaction of feeling that now I can sort of make it through life and not feel the bumps. Do you know what I mean? It's a similar life, but it's much less friction in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like your blanket that's always with you. When you were a kid, you had your thing that you needed to feel comfortable and feel safe. And you always have it. So you're not looking outside. It's always inside where it can balance you.
Yes.
People call it joy. It's that feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, beautiful. So can you define what happy means to you?
For me, it's interesting. I think about at different times in my life, I would say I had more total moments of joy than others, right? There's some periods where it's really a joyful time, and then other periods that are harder. But I find that in all of those, it's like, I used to think at one time in my life that I was either happy or sad, that the two were opposites. And then it wasn't until I went through my first divorce that I recognized that it was possible for me to be completely happy and completely sad at the exact same time. That you actually have two dials. You have a happy dial and you have a sad dial. So you can feel really excited and really joyful and really optimistic, and also be mourning the loss of something that was dear to you. And those two can coexist. And thank goodness that they can, right?
Yes,
Because
yes.
life would be pretty hard if you were always in sad.
Yeah.
And so in any case, but for me, understanding that I was able to sort of give myself permission to have the grief, not feel like I had to run away from the grief. I was allowed to have the grief, and at the same time allow myself to have the happy, and to recognize, no, it's perfectly normal for me to feel joyful and optimistic, even though I've got this sad thing going on in my life. And that sad thing could be, what if you have the loss of a parent, or the loss of, right? It's okay to be grieving and at the same time to feel happy. That those are two separate dials. So for me, happy is it's a separate dial from sad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also it is a perspective that as I'm going through life and I recognize how I'm choosing to see things and interpret things, that my happiness is really up to me. Mm-hmm. That it is my perspective, and it's my choice to find the happy in my life.
Love that. So how do you maintain it and keep it as a daily habit?
Oh, well, I think one of the biggest things that I do is in the way that I go through my life in terms of finding, first of all, I notice what my inner dialogue is. So I'll notice if I'm, going down the spiral of negative self-talk, you can catch that and say, okay, let's reach for a happier thought. But there's also, I notice and pay attention to my thought processes, that when I'm making choices, and life is all about choices, right? Everything you do in your life starts with a choice, with a decision to do it. I find that when I commit to my choices, when I'm all in on the things that I do, it sets me up to be happier. That if I'm leaning out, if I choose something and then I'm always asking myself, should I done that thing? Or should I, am I leaning towards this other thing? If I'm half committed, it's like I've taken half my energy and I've spread it all over the place.
Yeah.
Rather than taking all of my energy and pointing it in one direction. And if I really commit, I take all that creative energy that I have, I point it at one thing. Not only do I feel less divided about it, but then because I've got all my energy going towards it, that thing I've chosen is more likely to succeed, which reinforces my happiness.
Right.
So I find that monitoring my own thought processes and asking myself, okay, am I committing? And it doesn't mean that you never question your decisions. Sometimes you do, but you don't live in a constant state of uncertainty. You don't live in a constant state of questioning or leaning out, because that's a recipe for really feeling dissatisfied.
Right. I love that. You're all in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all in.
Because usually we can say, oh, yeah, I'll do that. But then the back, we have fear and something holding us back, so we're not completely there, so we don't get the full experience.
Yeah. And I think it's hard to go, like the idea of where does your fear come from and how do you deal with that? Fear can be natural, right? It can be, it's as you're going through anything, you can't help but wonder sometimes, is there some huge thing I'm overlooking? Mm-hmm. And I think the best thing that you can tell yourself is a lot of times when we're making decisions, we think that there's one right choice.
Right. And
we hold ourselves to a really high standard, to a very tough standard. We say, okay, it's up to me. I have to pick the right one or I'm going to fail.
Right.
And even as we're making the decision, that leads us down this trail of doubt of, did I pick the right one? And what's going to be, what's going to happen if I pick the wrong one? And I think that it is, in terms of whether or not something turns out to be the right decision, as long as you've done your basic research and you've narrowed it down to sort of 2 or 3 good options, I think the truth is that any one of those options can be very successful for you. And what makes the difference is not what you pick, it's how you pick it. It's how committed are you to that choice. So if you picked any one of those 3, but you only gave it half your energy, how successful is it going to be?
Exactly.
Is if you pick any one of those 3, you give it all of yourself, you really commit to it, then you've set yourself up for your best chance of success. So I think the key is when you start feeling those feelings of doubt, to recognize that that other thing that you could have picked is not necessarily better, that any of the three that you could have chosen would be equally successful. What matters is you and your mindset and how committed you are to seeing this one through. So staying focused and staying on target and continuing your energy in that same path is going to take you further until you get to a point where it's like really obviously not working, at which point
right. So it's not so much the action, it's the energy you put into the action.
Yes, exactly.
And that can only be done if you are really checking in with yourself, if you're really being present.
Yeah.
Because if you're on autopilot, that's just not happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, completely. Yeah. And it is so much how you're feeling internally. Like, so if you said being on autopilot and not checking in with yourself, everything that you're trying to create in the world starts with you. It's all about your energy first, right? And if you're not tuned into what's going on with your energy, you actually don't really know what you're creating. So you could be chugging along and having all this discord inside you. And if you have discord, guess what you're going to create? Because what's happening inside of you, it actually broadcasts much louder than what happens in your head. Your conscious mind is only 12% of your activity, of your brain activity. Your subconscious mind is that remaining, it's 9 times stronger than what's happening in your conscious mind. So if you're internally feeling discord or feeling torn about something or feeling upset about something that you're not facing, that you're not embodying and getting in touch with, that's what's creating your reality.
Yes. And people around you are hearing the words you're saying and the actions you're taking, but they're not truth to them. They're not believing it because your energy is not matching.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. Great point. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That was awesome. So when you're not feeling you're happy, how do you get yourself back into alignment?
I find that that depends a little bit on what's going on with me. I find that if I'm feeling disempowered, if I'm feeling in a place where I'm feeling like if I feel like I need to have more balance, like between the masculine and feminine, then something as simple as yoga helps me enormously. And I know you are a pro at that. But I find that in some cases, the inner can mirror the outer. It's like our outer body sends messages. So it's like they actually done studies that somebody who, even if you're in a horrible mood and you just smile, that actually the physical act of smiling makes your whole body feel happier. It's like your internal, it's like it sends chemical messages to the rest of your body and you start to feel happier. So I find that when I get sad, I feel like my energy just plummets. I feel like it's almost like you take that little center of power that's here in your third chakra mind. I feel like it just drops and I end up feeling like a wet noodle. I lose connection with my sense of power. And so if I take yoga poses, that I do warrior poses or whatever, and it makes me feel empowered again, it's almost like it kickstarts that engine for me again and gets me back going again. So that is a good technique for me personally.
Oh, I like that. Wow. These were so wonderful. And you said them with so much ease. And I think out of everything you said, that's the most inspiring, is because after practicing these habits that we're discussing, once we embody them, we can always go back there. I mean, as easy as just closing your eyes and taking a breath and aligning. And where am I at? How am I feeling? What actions do I need to take?
Yeah.
We do that with everything else. We don't forget to grab our keys before we walk out of the door. We brush our teeth, but we do not take the time to ground and be in our body before we take any action. How beautiful would that be?
You're totally right. And that's one of the amazing things I've noticed after going through difficult times, is that my inclination when I'm going through a difficult time is I want to just work through it. I want to immediately dig back in. I want to get to work. And that's more avoidance behavior. For me, my avoidance behavior is working. Some people drink, some people, everybody has their thing. I work. That's how I avoid. But I'm so much better served to take a pause and to sit with it until I can get my energy my attitude and my feelings in a better place, because everything I'm creating is coming from my energy. So if I'm trying to work through it and I'm coming from this place of grief or sadness, then everything I'm creating is coming from that grief and sadness. Right. So it's, everything. So it's like if you're saying, if before you leave the house, if you're carrying negativity with you, that's what you're going to bring into your day. And then guess what your day is going to give you? Whereas if you take a few moments, and it may feel like, oh, I don't have time for that, but it's the most important thing. It's the thing that matters, because it's what determines what you're going to face when you walk through the door.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Oh, wonderful. So others out there that are struggling to find their happy, will you give them one piece of advice that's really helped you?
Oh, I think that's the most important thing, is to remember that what you're feeling right now is just a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that emotions live in the now. And when you're feeling a feeling, you think that it's going to last forever. You think that how you feel now is how you're going to feel tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And it can feel oppressive.
Yeah.
But that's actually not true. That if you think about when you come home from a long day and you plop on the sofa and you can't imagine getting up and going to a party because you're so exhausted. But if you force yourself to get up and you go to the party and you have a fabulous time, and you can't imagine how you could have ever wanted to sit on the sofa, right? And that's because our emotions live only in the now. They can only experience what they're experiencing right this moment, and they project from that moment for all time. So if you're feeling low, take a breath and recognize it's just a moment. And if you do some of these exercises that you're talking about and take that moment that you're talking about, you can shift out of those feelings, that they aren't permanent, that they're just a moment.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And I can imagine surrounding yourself with people that do that as well. Mm-hmm. Is just going to make that better, make that easier. People around you are saying, let's get up, let's go outside, let's get a nice walk, let's do things that bring you joy, instead of sitting on the couch and making you feel lazy, which doesn't make you feel good.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anne.
My pleasure. It's so fun to see you.
I know. We haven't seen each other for a while. So will you tell everyone how they can reach out to you?
Yeah, sure. So I wrote a book that's called Undoubtedly Awesome, and it is about your soul type and making decisions, and it goes into depth about how you're making choices and how that can result in feeling doubt or feeling happiness. So very appropriate for you and your subject matter. And then you can also find me on the Wisdom Soup app, which is on the App Store as well as on Google Play.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so, so much.
My pleasure. Thanks so much. It was great to talk to you.
Thank you for taking time for us and for your growth. I hope you discovered new happy habits to support your happiness. Please reach out with questions, or if you need more support, at Happy Balance Facebook group or balancewithcourtney.com. Thank you, Anne.
Yeah, it's great to see you, Courtney.